Hey guys, I just want to throw a quick video out because I'm sure, like yourselves, I've sat over the weekend watching the scandal engulfing the BBC. Now, I don't particularly want to focus on the BBC itself. I think that there's far too much analysis that's surface level and simply looks at a particular crisis rather than looking at broader trends. So for me, I'm going to actually just take that as one example of something else that we're seeing across the country at the moment. If you take the BBC for the moment, what you've actually seen is the DG and I believe the Director of News resign. No one has been sacked. Now, it could well be that there are sackings later on, but I find it unlikely, but we'll see. Particularly the producer of that particular Panorama episode that spliced together chunks of Trump's speech to give a complete misrepresentation of what he said. However, that's just one example. You also have Lisa Nandy, the Minister for Culture, I believe is whatever the full title of the department is, who has been caught appointing someone who actually donated to her leadership campaign to a position in one of the institutions. Again, I've not seen a resignation at all, let alone a sacking for that. You have had, and this seems so old now, but actually it should still be the scandal of the day. You've had the Chinese court case trial against the spies collapse. The government has been found to have been right up to its ears in it. Again, no one's been sacked, no one has resigned. You've had the rape inquiry of the Pakistani rape gangs basically collapse because of government. No one's resigned. No one's been sacked. Well, incorrect, actually. The rape victims have resigned from the inquiry that is supposed to bring out the truth of the crimes perpetrated against them and tens, if not hundreds of thousands of other girls. The prison service continues to deteriorate and is now letting out people, it seems like, on a daily basis. Again, no one's resigned. No one has actually been sacked. And I think that's the thing that I want to draw attention to. It's not the individual crises, scandals, or anything else. It is the thread that runs through this. And that's the crisis in our country at the moment. And it's exactly the same problem within the civil service as well. There is zero accountability and it appears to be zero concern for the outcomes that are now visited near daily upon the public and this country. The public are secondary to people's careers and the system's survival overall. It is literally, the system is now metastasizing as a cancer and it is killing the entire country. And I say that with no joy in my heart, and it's not that I'm being extreme, but when the system is basically continuing to survive, fighting to survive, but whilst killing the host, that is exactly what cancer is. Cancer is cells that have been sent the kill command because they have gone wrong for whatever reason, and they refuse to die. And they keep growing and growing, duplicating until, if untreated, it kills the host. There is no public sense of shame from these people, and there is absolutely no reaction function left in the state in any meaningful way at all. And there's certainly no urgency to fix anything. The problems of this country pile high by the day, higher by the day, and yet nothing is done with any speed or any due concern for what is actually happening to the public, to trust in our institutions or anything else. And that is because the people in charge of them largely do not care. And I say that after considering it over the weekend. And let me explain why. The people in charge of our institutions, who sit at the very top of our society, not just in the public institutions, but also in academia, within the diplomatic service, the police force, whatever else, they are far more interested in protecting their jobs, but actually more than anything else, their reputations. And those reputations are not I hasten to add, the reputation that me and you perceive. Okay, this is a group of people who about 10 years ago became, as the Marxists would say, class aware. They now perceive themselves as being completely separate to us, to the rest of society, and actually in most ways do not care about what the rest of society think of them. And it is the reputation amongst that class that they worry about. They couldn't care less what the rest of the population thinks of them. And I'll explain why. They circulate within these groups, both work and personally. We've all heard the trope, but it's one that probably actually is a certain level of truth about the dinner party set. And that is true. Almost 100% true. These people circulate amongst their own group of people, the movers and the shakers, that they are the crowd of as part of the establishment. Many of these people went to university together, they will have gone into their first jobs together, and it is those people they are more concerned about in every way than us. It is that they are protecting, always. Their position within that group. And what I mean by that is they fundamentally do not care what the rest of us think. They do care what the people in that group think. And that is why so many bad decisions take place within society or within this country, and actually across most other Western countries now, because every other country has the same emergent class of people who sit above and beyond us in some shape or form. They are people who will look to each other for surety, for the way ahead, for whether or not they're doing the right thing or not. They are not looking to us. That is why our politics have become so broken down. These people no longer look towards the demos, the general public in each country, for a steer on what is right and wrong. They look to each other, but also they look to each other across countries. Because just as I said, just as these people have become class aware within this country, they have also become class aware across every other country. And they, if you like, as internationalists, to use a trope that I dislike, globalists, they see themselves as a class above and beyond even the nation state. And that's why we are here. And that is the failure that you now see time and time again, as these people basically are making decisions based upon what they and their group thinks is right, or what they think is going to further them within their group, and not actually what's going to do what's good for their own countries and for their common citizenship. And that matters, because once you become detached from your citizenship, once you become detached from your fellow citizens, and you no longer actually care, then it's hardly a shock that all these things start breaking down. They live without fear because, to a certain extent, as long as they do the right thing in terms of the system, then they can be sure that 99% of the time they'll get parachuted in. You see it in public appointments time and time again. The same layer of scum circulates to the top, froths to the top of every appointment and gets slotted into it. You saw it with everything from the post office scandal through to every other example of it. I mean, if you want to see how incestuous the whole process is, go look at stuff like procurement. Now, I am tired of it. I genuinely am really, really tired of it. And people need to demand more. We shouldn't sit there and just let these people, when most of us, people who like myself, we all work in the private sector, okay? If you, to coin a phrase, fuck it up that badly, you can expect to be fired. And rightly so. If you're that much of a screw up, you should be fired, both as a signal to you to do a better job, but actually as a signal to other people who may employ you that you're a bit of a mess. Okay, it's harsh. Sometimes those mistakes aren't on yours, but to a certain extent, actually, if the inverse of that is the bigger the paycheck you take, the more you're made responsible for problems that aren't necessarily yours of your making. That's tough. You're taking the big wage. That's how it works. But people need to demand more, because it's no longer good enough that these people basically swanny from job to job, screwing things up, messing things up for the rest of us, and we're all supposed to just suck it up so they can keep swanning along to their next cushy role. Okay? We are done here. We are done here. And people need to stop, as I said, getting involved so directly in all those little, the minutiae of each scandal is important, but you actually need to focus on the trends. You need to look at the bigger picture, because to a certain extent, it is the bigger picture that tells you more information. Okay? Of course, it's vital we understand the ins and outs of what happened here and everything else. But if, as you see it, as I see it, that there is the common thread is the fact that you have these people who apparently just don't give a shit enough about the country and their roles, because they're so focused on themselves in positions of power, then actually you have a bigger answer to how to fix lots of the problems that we have, and not just perhaps one scandal. And that's actually to start rolling the big R through a lot of the institutions, redundancies, try to clear these people out. And we need to make it abundantly clear when we win, to coin that phrase, that actually it's no longer going to be acceptable. You screw up, you're going to take it on the chin. And that starts at the top. And by the way, for a lot of these people who have been particularly the ones sucking on the public teat, most of them actually have huge pensions that you and I are paying for, that we will never ever in our last minute of our lives be able to accrue in our private sector jobs. And they have accrued them for basically failing. And I have to say that I'm starting to think, and I've said it on Twitter and I'll say it here, I'm starting to think that probably the easiest way to start motivating people to focus on us and not their little group, their clique that run so much, is to simply tie their pension to their performance. Because I'm pretty certain if you turn around to people and start saying, well, actually, if you screw up that badly, we're going to take your pension away from them, they're going to be a lot more motivated to get down out of their ivory towers, get their hands dirty, and actually start dealing with our problems. Because they will be brought to heel. These people must be brought to heel. They need to be, a lot of them need to be thrown out. Other of them will probably need to stay because they have the relevant skill sets. But you know what? Either way, we cannot continue like this. So by all means, get involved. Think of the minutiae of each scandal. But please, 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 always look at the bigger picture. Because the bigger picture is probably where we fix more of our things, like I said, not just one particular small one. Thank you.